Now, what happens when, in our relationships, what's the results of breaking the law? Well, if you look at the list that I've given you there, you notice one of the results is we end up doing things for other people so much that we become tired and exhausted and depleted emotionally and depleted spiritually and depleted energetically when we're doing all of this. So if that's what's happening in your life, you're feeling tired and exhausted by helping somebody or helping somebody else or other people, then you are not helping other people deal with the causes of their problems. You are actually addressing the effects of their problems, right? And that is a very tiring and thankless proposition, which is the penalty for not addressing the cause, by the way. So the penalty for not addressing causal issues in other people, not in yourself, because remember we're talking about yourself, next talk. The penalty for not addressing causal issues emotionally in other people is the effect on your soul is that you will actually finish up feeling tired and depleted and exhausted, and you'll get sick, physically sick probably as well. That's what will happen. It's been a major problem for me in my life, because I used to get sick once a month, every month on the average for a week. I did that happened for nearly 15 years of my life. From the time I was 20 to the time I was 33, that happened. The instant I stopped doing it, I didn't get sick for 7 years. That's how different it was, for my body. Just by trying to fix the effects of problems all around me, rather than addressing the causes. So very powerful when you change that for yourself. Notice also in the list there, we have the effect that others that we want to help or seem to help never change. So how many of you have had this kind of friend that 20 years ago they had this problem and they've still got the same problem today and we're still helping them out in the same way that we did 20 years ago? Right? That's a fair, right? So that's a fair thing to indicate to us that we're not dealing with the cause. Most of the time we don't deal with the cause because we're afraid. We're afraid that we're going to lose a friendship, for example. Often that's the case. So, example of that. Let's say I've got a very strained relationship with my parents, right? If I deal with the effect, whenever I'm with my parents, I'll just make it easy for them by dodging this emotion inside of myself and dodging that emotion inside of it, not bring up anything, and what I'll do is not address anything with my parent directly. Why? Because I'm afraid that if I address them directly and actually tell them how I really feel about this situation, they're going to hate my guts and not give me the love that I'm seeking from them, right? But the truth is, if I was dealing with the cause, I would actually want to deal with the cause within them that causes them to not love me, and the only way we can do that is by me telling the truth about the cause within me as to how I feel. Does that make sense? Teresa, thanks. Up there, just up over there.
In that situation where you've got a friend who's been talking to you for 20 years, I've got a friend, my cousin, like that. Does that mean she's actually giving me permission to say, well, actually, this is what I think, or whatever? So you're not breaking the law of free will by saying, well, these are the causes, or...
Most of the time people who are doing this are just using you to escape their own emotions. All right? And whether they want you to or not, you're allowed to say, because of your own free will, that you are not going to do it anymore. And when you do that, it will certainly trigger whatever that emotion is that they're trying to get from you. Right? So my suggestion is to just be very firm about what you feel you will do. And when you do that, you will even do it in a loving way. You say, look, I just can't do this anymore with you because I'm not loving myself doing this when I'm with you. Right? And I can't not love myself anymore. You know, we've been in this cycle for 20 years. I don't want to continue the cycle another day. I'm not going to do this another day with you. Now, if that means losing our friendship, if that's if that's what you want, then I'm going to lose your friendship. That's the way it's going to be. But unfortunately, or fortunately for me, I am not going to do this unloving thing to you anymore, or this unloving thing to myself. You see, you're being unloving to them as well as yourself by just addressing the effect. In fact, what you're often doing when you're addressing effects is you're enabling their own unloving conduct. You're actually helping them. It's like, you'll understand it when we refer to it like with a child, a teenage child, let's say. Let's say a teenager has got a new car. Dad bought him a car, paid for the insurance, pays for the tyres, pays for everything. He gets in the car, with a few mates. Off he goes. And then, Dad finds out he's been doing burns around the main highway. This happens a lot in the country still. And he's ripped up half the tyres. Now he wants new tyres. Dad says, yeah, all right, I'll buy you new tyres. So he buys him new tyres. So what does he do again with those tyres? And then he buys him new tyres. What's Dad doing? He's just feeding it, like feeding that issue, right? This is what we're often doing with others, is we're actually feeding or enabling their unloving behaviour towards themselves or others. We're often doing that. And we often continue doing that for years and years and years without saying anything because we're too afraid to say anything.
So should we actually say something as well?
Always.
Yeah. So this is what, you need.
But deliver it, work through your own emotions first. But yes, if you're not saying something in that situation, you do not love yourself. And we'll talk about that next week, or next fortnight, or whatever it is, about, what we would do in treating ourselves with this law of cause and effect. Yep. Is there anything else that we need to mention in there? Oh, I've got a good one there. I'd just like to read it out. Notice in the example I've got, if a child is taking drugs, we would, number one, address emotions within ourselves of low self-worth that have been passed down to the child. So in other words, we would first look at our own feelings of self-worth or how we've treated the child for them to have such terrible self-worth, and we'd work through all those emotions. Second, we'd talk to the child about the emotions we've just worked through. So we're not telling the child, you've got this emotion, you've got that emotion, you've got this emotion. What we're doing instead is we're saying, I've got this emotion, I've got that, I've got this emotion. I can see that all of these emotions in me have created this in you. Then we would never intervene with the effects happening to the child unless they were willing to address the cause. So the child gets picked up for drug selling, gets taken to the thing, goes to court, gets put in jail for 3 months. Would you pay for his court fees? You see, a lot of parents would, right? But it wouldn't be loving because it would be addressing the effect. Can you see that? The child really needs to pay for the effect, not you. The child does, right? And then dealing with the effects, bailing the person out, is actually an unloving act unless the person truly desires to change. All right? Can you see? All I'd be doing in that situation is enabling more drug-taking behaviour if I did anything else other than those things. You see? And so often what we do is we get so embroiled in the situation that we don't look at the cause. And it's a loving act for you to look at the causal emotion within another person and, in love, talk to them about what that causal emotion may be. It's a loving act to do that. It's not a loving act for you to actually talk about the effect and berate them for the effects they've created and judge them for the effects that they've created in their life because of what they've done. That's not loving. Which is often what we finish up doing, right? Rather than addressing the causes. There's a lot of love in addressing a cause. And if you can help any single person address just one emotional cause, there's a beautiful effect for them in their life and also a very positive effect inside of you in your own soul as well. Right? Louisa? Up the back, thanks.
AJ, just with my older daughter, she's 29, she sometimes gets hysterical about things and I listen and I feel quite dumped on. because I feel guilty that I haven't given her enough love in her life.
So she gets hysterical,
Well, yeah, and I...
talks to you, you feel down,
Yeah.
guilty.
So I kind of feed that because I'm feeling guilty that I haven't given her enough in her life.
It depends. See, every situation can't be said like to be the same for every single person, because there's different sets of emotions going on. So yes, in some cases, I'm not saying this is your situation now.
Yeah.
I'm just talking about situations generally. Like if a daughter gets hysterical and then you feel like tired listening to it, right? Then there's only two reasons why you feel tired listening to it. One is that you actually do feel like you are to blame, and you're not allowing yourself to be repentant for that. In other words, to feel the sorrow you feel about that. And you're trying to suppress that emotion. So that's one option, right? The other option is that she, in her hysteria, is trying to get an emotion from you. And that you feel that you have to give it, and in the process you feel depleted in your energy, right? Either one, there's an emotion inside of yourself to deal with regard to the relationship. But can you see that it might be different depending on what's going on inside of yourself?
And would kind of addressing the cause be sort of encouraging her to talk with me about how she feels about our relationship? Or
No.
not?
Addressing the cause would firstly be you going away privately and working through your issues about what that felt like for you, and working through repentance and remorse about, you know, things you've done as a parent and so forth. That's firstly addressing the cause. When you do that, then the second things will start occurring. Now, Nina, you've had an experience of this with your daughter, haven't you? Like, both of you have had that experience.
Just many occasions now. One I did share with the group, but I think it was maybe a couple of weeks ago. My daughter has gone through a very challenging time, and I wanted to fix her, I guess, and I wanted to help her. And
So you had all this projected emotion of fear, really, going at her, trying to fix her and help
And I think it was mixed with guilt. I relate to what the
Okay.
other lady was saying. And
Yeah.
I got to a point where I had this, and I don't know how I got to that point, but there was this feeling of, oh God, I just don't want to fix her anymore. I just want to love her. I
Right.
just wanted to love her. There was nothing that I wanted to do. I just wanted to love her in this way that I hadn't quite felt before.
Yep.
And that happened for me on a Monday, and I didn't express it to anyone, but my daughter and I are very, very close and connected somehow, and she's incredibly intuitive. And she rang me up on the Wednesday and she said, Mum, what are you doing now? Because she knows I've been doing this. What are you doing now? Are you praying for me or something? And I said, no, love, I'm doing exactly the opposite. I've just completely given up. And I've given it to God, and it was really beautiful. And over the period of months that I've been doing this work on myself, and I have felt a lot of repentance, and I've never done anything abusive, our relationship is just blossoming, and it's the most precious, beautiful thing I can think
So
of.
what's
Yeah.
happening is it's drawing her to you, and she expresses herself automatically to you now, because she hasn't got that huge projection coming from you that she has to do it anymore.
Yeah, and I'm really starting to feel that she cares for me, which is something I've never felt from her before.
Yeah.
It's just, it's so precious. If I could somehow convey for a parent to walk this road, I really would, because
Yeah.
it's very, very special.
Yeah. So does that give you sort of an illustration of, oftentimes as parents, what we're trying to do is we're trying to fix the child, but actually we're not understanding. We don't understand if we're trying to do that. All the child's problems are the result of something that's inside of me that I need to fix. And when I fix that, everything will be drawn. The child will be drawn back to me, and will also be drawn back in the relationship and become closer in the relationship in order to deal with those problems. That will happen automatically if I deal with what's going on inside of me. So in your case, Nina, there was a projection sort of harming her free will. She was allowed to choose what she wants to choose. There was also a projection in terms of your desire didn't match her desire. There was also a projection of not addressing the cause within yourself, which you started to address. Once you started to address, you can see how it all affects. And then you did all this automatically when you just let go of the whole process and said, all right, I'm just going to love her no matter what goes on. Now she's not getting all those projections anymore.
That was the other really profound thing. She said, the reason that she was ringing me up and asking me what I was doing is she has been suffering from anxiety, and she said, "Mum, for the last 2 days I've been feeling less anxious."
Yeah.
So here's me thinking, oh, I'd like to help her, I've got to, I want to be there for her, I want to help her fix this, but I was just making her anxious, including myself.
Exactly. So your own anxiety was being projected upon her, which making her feel more anxious and so forth. And so it's very, very powerful when you actually change it at the soul level, what's going on towards the children. Josh?
I was wondering what your suggestion would be if you're on the receiving end of someone who, like, if you're reliant on someone's giving to you, what's the best way to I find with emotions a lot of the time emotion will come up by confronting the person, but I'm also afraid of projecting at them in that situation. So just say someone's giving a lot of things to you all the time, and you can see that it's coming from some sort of erroneous place, but you're relying on that.
Then you're in disharmony with love. I would instantly say to them, I'm sorry, but I can see that you're giving it and it's not coming from love, so I can't receive it even though I need it.
And so if there's a lot of anger tied in with that, and you're confronting the person, it's like you have to run away before you even say anything.
If you're getting anger from the other person, then address that too. Why are you angry with me now for knocking back something that's a gift? If it was a gift, you wouldn't be angry with me. And that would actually confront the underlying emotion as to what you were feeling in the first place anyway. So the truth is, Josh, that in the end, if somebody's giving something to you and you know they're not doing it out of love, they're doing it out of guilt, shame, whatever it is, your accepting it is actually breaking a law of love, whether you need that thing or not.
Okay, thanks for that.
And then the question you need to ask yourself is, all right, I'm obviously accepting it, thinking I'm not going to get it from any other location. So therefore my issue is a lack of abundance and so forth, an emotion that I need to work my way through. Does that make sense? So allow yourself to see that whenever you notice another person doing something that they don't really desire to do, then you are actually harming them by accepting them doing it to you. Do you follow me? And if you address the issue, then you'll find that everything will become more harmonious with love. Mary, I can feel Mary's projecting at me about our own situation in this one. Do you want to say something about it? Oh, I'm feeling it.
I was just marvelling at my soulmate because you actually really do this. And when we first started a relationship, it was really challenging for me because I had a lot of pleasing people emotions, and so I was doing a lot of things that were actually what I thought would be pleasing AJ, and because he's so sensitive, he would be saying to me, "You don't actually want to do this, we're not doing this, no, you can't do it." And so
Yeah.
I was just...
And what has that helped you do? Like, it's helped you...
Well, look at what my own desires are, because I was someone who was completely, very out of touch with what my true passions and desires were. If it was in any way impinging on anyone else, or what I felt other people wanted, I wouldn't allow myself to have.
You'd automatically
desires.
do what they wanted. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Mary was so sensitive that she could feel what I wanted and automatically try to do it. And then I would feel, she's trying to do it. She doesn't really want it. So
We have two really sensitive people.
yeah. So and that just helps confront the fact that what's happening with the desire. Does that make sense? So let yourself do that. And if somebody is trying to give something to you and you feel the desire to do it is not based on love, but it's based on... A lot of times people will give to you because they want something from you, right? And this happens to myself and Mary quite often, actually, where people do give us things, but they want our time in return. So it's not a gift anymore, right? We have to pay for it. And so, usually what we try to do is reject those kind of transactions. Right? Because obviously that's not a gift, that's an expectation, and that's not a loving thing, even if we need the thing that we're being given. Thanks, babe. Jen, just over there. If there's... Yep,
I had an experience in my
sleep state last night, some people were telling me I wasn't allowed to talk to God. Now, obviously, that's a fear of mine that I'm not supposed to be talking to God. But they kept on and on and on, and I got very, very angry. And I noticed there was a broomstick over in the corner, and they wouldn't leave. They said, we're not leaving until you say you're not going to talk to God anymore.
Yep.
So I started whacking them with this broomstick.
Yep.
Now I have two questions.
Yep.
Is that going to affect my soul condition because I've been whacking these people? Or was that, I felt like I was really being attacked. So...
Yeah, so there's a few emotions for you to work through. When you're being attacked, the feeling of you being attacked, you wish to attack in return, right? So if you wish to attack in return when you're being attacked, then you need to look at the emotion or the underlying emotion that's there. What's driving that? Now often it's an emotion of like feeling like not being listened to or not being heard. Sometimes an emotion of feeling controlled and wanting to burst out of that control. And there's other types of emotions. Your better option would be to go into those emotions and feel them so that you don't feel like attacking the other person. And the irony is that when you deal with the causal emotion, you will be attacked less or not at all, because your law of attraction changes and nobody feels they can attack you and get away with it. Does that make sense? And so they no longer attack you as much. So I've said to you in the past that I've had often like large groups of people or groups of people attacking me, some being very threatening and some even threatening to kill me. And once I've dealt with my own emotion, they're still there and they still have the same anger towards me, but they don't do that to me anymore. So just by my dealing with my own emotion that attracted that. And we'll talk about the law of attraction in a minute as another law.